Hello, welcome to this short video about learning theories from the MSc in Medical Education at Swansea University Medical School. What I hope you're able to do by the end of this short video is describe the basic concept of a learning theory as applied to educational research and practice. These are some of the learning theories that are very commonly found in education research and practice. You can see a list of them there, and behaviorism and constructivism are perhaps the two most prominent and the ones which will feature in detail in a separate video. First though, we need to talk a bit about generally what a learning theory is. There are lots of learning theories, over 50. Many of the learning theories overlap, and they often represent the work of an individual or small groups. They're informed by epistemological and ontological perspectives. We describe what those are in a separate video when we talked about pragmatism. Many of the learning theories are difficult to test, and I'll come on to why that is in a second. Some of them are deliberately so, and that means that there's no right or wrong learning theory. It's not true to say that one theory is even necessarily better than another. The most important takeaway from the concept of what a learning theory is it's not used in the same way in education as it is in, say, the medical sciences. In education, learning theories are used more as a framework or an explanation. Let me show you a couple of examples. Here's then a statement from an academic research study on academic misconduct. The statement says, deterrents of cheating strongly embedded in the student culture were found among engineering undergraduates, which may be explained by social learning theory. Here's another example. The cognitive benefits of active pedagogies are explained by constructivist and social cognitive learning theories. The key part of these sentences is the way that they're structured. You can see that the researchers have found some findings and are then going back to theory to explaining them. This is a very different way of approaching the basic idea of a theory. If you're used to the medical and physical sciences, then you might expect a theory to be something which generates falsifiable hypotheses. We then design experiments to collect data or other empirical evidence to test those hypotheses. If the hypotheses are proved to be false, then we modify the theory and we start again. In the social sciences, as you saw in those previous examples, theory does normally mean something slightly different. It's a framework or a way of explaining our findings rather than something which generates hypotheses to be tested. This can lead some people to be very critical of the idea of theory in the social sciences, including education. Here's a quote from a statistician, Winifred Castle, who said, most educational researchers use theories the way a drunkard uses a light post, more for support than illumination. Winifred Castle quoted by Jeff Norman. Learning theories are also different because they compete with each other. They overlap and try to use different frameworks to explain some of the same things. This can lead to lots of conflict between the different learning theories. Here are some examples. You'll see papers with titles like The Poverty of Constructivism or Disavowal of the Behaviorist Paradigm in Nursing Education. What makes it so difficult to unseat? And papers like Why Minimal Guidance During Instruction Does Not Work, an analysis of the failure of constructivist discovery, problem-based experiential and inquiry-based teaching. Very critical and very often controversial papers which set different theories against each other. Now for our purposes, how important is all this controversy? If we go back to our model, we consider evidence-based education to happen at the intersection between useful evidence, our judgment about it, and the context in which we're applying it. So is there any evidence to support the use of various learning theories? The answer to that is somewhat complicated. For some theories there is empirical data, for others there isn't, and for some of them there's a deliberate attempt to say that generating empirical data does not fit with such a learning theory. This leads us on to a slightly different question that better fits with our model of evidence-based education. Are learning theories useful? Now that's something we're going to let you come to a decision about when you watch some of the other videos that explain in a bit more detail what the different learning theories are about. However, I will say that from our perspective, it is useful for you to know about learning theories. You're going to see them come up very commonly in lots of the literature about educational practice and research. As I said at the beginning, here are just some of the common learning theories, although there are many more than this listed in books like the one you see in front of you from Dale Shunk. The three most important learning theories for our purpose in trying to explain what a learning theory is are probably behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism. Cognitivism we're going to come back to in later videos because it forms the basis of lots of the cognitive psychology approaches to understanding evidence-based practice and education. Things like cognitive load theory, things like retrieval practice have their roots in a cognitivist approach to education. Behaviorism and constructivism then are probably two poles of the continuum of different learning theories. Behaviorism is quite an old learning theory, but it's the one that most other learning theories then define themselves against. Constructivism is probably the most popular current learning theory, and both behaviorism and constructivism are going to form the basis for separate videos in the same channel. Here then are some of the references we use to support the basic material on learning theories. If you have any questions about this, here's my email address. Just send me an email, and if not, I'll see you in another video. Bye-bye.